him on certain things because mashallah alayhi, yani he's really good, and the way he approaches and talks to students, it's like easy, and whoever comes from any background will be able to relate. Amin has his own company, all right, which is focused on artificial intelligence, providing services to other organizations, whether inside Bahrain, and also he has clients outside Bahrain. He does a lot of talks, mashallah. Who got some people.
Good one.
لا هاي جزء بشيلة لا تخاف.
No worries. Like, keep it up, just spice things up, you know.
And he's he's really good in terms of technically. And guys, يعني make sure that whatever questions you have in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, even if you come from a non-technical background, please, I mean, it's really good with like simplifying things for you. So, I mean, with no further ado, please, the floor is yours. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much. First things first, can you see my screen? I just want to
Yeah.
double check. Perfect. First things first, thank you very much, Dr. Isra. Always happy to be here. Thank you for the hospitality. I'm a big fan of your work. You know that on the record and off the record. And yeah, it's a complete pleasure to be here today to shed some light on artificial intelligence and you know, the technicalities of the thing, what's really wrong, what's really right about the technology, the fake, and you know, the true stuff about the technology. So I'm here. I hope I'm going to be beneficial to you guys. It's going to be a very casual talk. So at any point you have something, just write it in the chat, and I'm going to address that directly after the talk. So the talk today is going to be, is named Artificial Intelligence and the Magic of Machine Learning. It's here to give you a glimpse of what's happening there, how to get on board with the whole thing. If you're planning to do a business that leverages artificial intelligence, I'm going to show you exactly where to go about that. I'm going to show you some demos so you can, you know, have you know, a bit of you know, understanding where you can exactly use it within your use cases. So there you have it. A bit about me. My name is Ameen Altajer. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here. You can always reach out to me at ameenaltajer.com or in my handle, which is at Ameen Altajer. I'm available on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, almost at any, almost on all of these networks. You can check out our work and our business at INFINITEWARE.com. So there you have it. So in INFINITEWARE, we're basically an AI business. We're focused on creating, you know, artificial intelligence services and products. So we live by three things. The first one is we automate mundane and repetitive work. You know, doing a lot of you know, years in the corporate industry, be it banking and other stuff, I always witness that we spend a lot of time and we just waste a lot of time on repetitive work and mundane work that ought to be automated. And the second thing is we promise more intellectual bandwidth, meaning when we take care of the mundane and, you know, repetitive stuff, you get to have more time to focus on what really matters to you. The third thing is we provide you and we utilize intelligence to make value. So I'm a huge fan of artificial intelligence. It's not just strictly a business thing. It's that I completely believe that the next let's see, evolution for human beings is to just delegate a lot of cognitive skills, you know, to machines, where we can focus on what matters most to us, be it, you know, social, you know, relationships, or even other goals in life. So there you have it. Some of my clients, Saudi Aramco, you know, University of Bahrain. We've got SDC, a couple more. So yeah, we've been there for, we've been there for probably 10 years or so. So there you have it. The talk today is going to be tackling four things. The first one is we're going to be shedding some light on the topic of AI, understanding what AI is. You know, we're going to just, you know, smash into the fake stuff that we keep hearing. I'm just going to show it to you in its naked form, its real form. And then we're going to talk about the use cases and the applications in business. So if you guys are planning to create a business of some sort, which is the gist of this talk, or if you're planning to provide somebody with you know, pieces of advice when it comes to these things, you'll be able to, you know, grasp more and more about the, you know, the AI tech. And also, I'm going to provide you with very particular use cases for the COVID-19, so you can at least link it with the current situation, which is a pretty big deal. And after that, we're going to talk about starting in this domain. Whether you're a business or a technical guy, you've got multiple things that you can conquer, and I'm going to talk about that also. And then last but not least, we're going to be talking about the challenges and the risks adopting artificial intelligence. At the end of the day, it's a technology, so it's twofold. It has really good things, and on the other hand, it has some dangerous stuff that it can do. And not only that, it has its own challenges. So there you have it. Let's go forward. So the first thing that I want to talk about is shedding some light on AI, as I talked in the beginning. First things first, that you have to, there's one thing that I want you to understand before we get started. So social media is plagued with a lot of details, on artificial intelligence that might not be true, which is a pretty big deal for all of us. So it's really important, if you're looking forward to get real information, is to hook up with people who are coming from the industry or coming from academia, that they have their work revolved around the topic of AI and machine learning. So for the sad thing is, the sad truth about business is, for you to get on the wagon of making business, sometimes you'll have to do a lot of PR and a lot of propaganda out there. And some people really abuse it to the extent of creating fake news that have no connection to what's really real about artificial intelligence. So just put that in mind as you go over social media or other resources online. Just make sure you really become super selective when it comes to just consuming information and knowledge out there. So yeah, there you have it. If we want to break it down, artificial intelligence, according to Wikipedia, is, generally speaking, artificial intelligence is all about artificially depicting cognitive skills like learning and problem solving, most of the time mimicking the human intelligence. So one way to put it is that human beings believe that we are the best species available. And so this is subjective. I'm not going to comment on that. However, there's one point that is really true about that. And that is, we as humans, we really rely on our intelligence a lot to get things going. So to live, to survive, to communicate with other people, we rely on our intelligence, and that can have a lot of skills under it. However, the two skills that I really think that are super crucial to label something as as intelligent. The first one is the idea of learning. So if you can create a system that can learn by itself, yeah, there you have it. You have an intelligent system that can cope with dynamic factors and such. And not only that, problem solving is also an underestimated core skill that a lot of people just throw here and there, and they're basically, when we talk about problem solving, but it's very difficult to go and actually implement that in a computer system. So if we really want to break down the whole idea about problem solving, it's the idea of trying to figure out a solution to a problem, no matter how complicated it is. So either you have a physical issue, a physical problem, or a mathematical problem. All of these cases share the same common factor, which is that they need, a systematic way of, solving the issue at hand. And this core skill itself is very difficult to go and create in a computer system. So there you have it. Two cognitive skills that we take for granted every single day. The first one is the learning aspect, which is how to dynamically deal with different things and learn and enhance somebody else's knowledge. And the second thing is problem solving, which is easier said than done. Now, the ultimate goal of artificial intelligence is to conquer a lot of the cognitive skills that humans, basically master. So as I said, learning, problem solving, which are the two common things, but there are a lot of stuff as well. So you have computer vision, for example. So we leverage our eyes a lot in order to survive in life. So we figure out if we have predators out there, even at driving. So when you're driving, you actually calculate the distance when you want to make a move, you want to make an action. So all of these things that we take for granted, they are, very, very high level, very sophisticated cognitive skills. And so in order to achieve that goal of allowing the machine to conquer, in order to offload a lot of the work that we have to the machine, we have to give the machine a lot of these skills so they can conquer these sort of tasks. So that is the ultimate goal. So let me break down the idea behind machine learning. So if you ever wanted to create a system back in the day the idea is, or this is basically why they teach in university, at least in the last 5 or 6 years, is that you have to have data and then you have somebody to create the actual code. So think about it in this fashion. Imagine you have somebody who wants to create a system, all right? And then the first thing that they want to do is they will probably want to go and grab the business requirements, understand what is needed by the system, all right? And then if they are coders, they're going to go there and try to translate those business requirements into actual code, into a program that can do the job. And so the output basically is the program that does the business requirements in an application fashion, basically. So that was okay for a very long time. This is the paradigm that a lot of people use when they want to create systems, when they want to build things. However, this sort of issue does not scale well, and you can probably relate to that. So I'll give you another example. Imagine you are trying to figure out if you have a cat or a dog in your hand, if you have an image of a cat or a dog. If you wanted to write a program that can tell the difference, you will probably know that this is a very difficult job to accomplish. It's not an easy thing to do, to be quite honest. Especially if you're a programmer, you will know the pain that this brings to the table. So where do you start? Because every image has a lot of pixels. So do you go searching for the colors of the pixels? Okay, we have so many dynamic things out there. So you have so many cats, you have so many shapes of dogs, and to conquer all of those is not going to be very easy. You have to come up with a very universal way in order to tell the difference between cats and dogs. So if you're a programmer, good luck with that. However, what happened in the last 10 years with the whole machine learning revolution, specifically deep learning, the whole paradigm now shifted. So the idea is just grab some information, some data, input data, and also supervise the generic machine learning algorithm with the output that you want. And at the end of the day, the algorithm itself, which is very generic, remember that, it is generic, meaning you're not creating custom things, you just use almost the same template every single time you have a problem. So you just grab the data. So in our case, we're just going to grab a lot of photos for cats and dogs, and then we're going to have the output, which basically it's just us. As we're feeding the photos to the system, we're telling the system that, hey, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a cat, and it goes on and on and on and on like that until you finish with the data that you have at hand. And so at the very end, this machine learning algorithm is going to give you the actual code that does the job. And here's the magic. So we're not focused on the actual programming in here. We're not writing code to tell the difference for this kind of problem. We're just feeding data, and we're feeding the output that we want. In this case, we're just labeling it as, hey, this is the cat, this is the dog, this is a cat, this is a dog, and we just go on and on and on. And by the end of the exercise, there you have it. You have a program that does exactly that. So that is the difference between the traditional programming paradigm and the machine learning paradigm. Now, one thing that I want to shed light also on, so we keep hearing those terms being thrown away, yes? So we keep hearing about artificial intelligence, we keep hearing about machine learning, we keep hearing about deep learning specifically, but how do they exactly work themselves out, in the full picture? Well, there you have it. Artificial intelligence is the biggest circle. It encompasses so many things that have to do with the idea of intelligence. And so, so basically computer vision, for example, you've got genetic programming, evolutionary programming. So we have so many things apart from machine learning. Machine learning is not the only thing that is basically considered artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a big circle. It has so many fields, so many sciences that go under it. But yeah, the most popular by far, given the last 10 years, is probably machine learning. And machine learning itself is not a new field. It's been there for a very long time. However, there have been a lot of different ways to accomplish machine learning, mainly focusing on the statistical aspects of it. So if you actually go 15 years back or 20 years, you're going to find people talking about machine learning. However, the way they accomplish that is that they heavily use statistical methods to do this. This is what we call basically classical machine learning. Now, in the last 10 years, there's been a complete revolution in the way we do machine learning. And that field is called deep learning, which is another subset of the circle of machine learning. So if you look at it, deep learning belongs to machine learning belongs to artificial intelligence. And with deep learning, what changes It's all about getting access to data and then mimicking how the human brain works. So if you look at it, if you actually remember from the other slide where I said machine learning algorithm, we're actually trying to mimic how the human mind works. So if you have a friend or a family member uh, that had the chance to study neuroscience, you will know that in neuroscience, there's this construct that goes by the name of neuron, which is in Arabic al-khaliya al-asabiyya. So this sort of thing, what happened is in the artificial intelligence space, a lot of people brought the same inspiration. They made it in a way digital, but it follows the same rules. And there you have it. We have the thing that we call now today deep learning. So the funny thing is, the more we follow how the human mind works, we get to get things done easily and faster. So there you have it. Now, in machine learning itself, when we talk about deep learning or even machine learning, there are multiple segments, multiple subdomains, and each of those is trying to solve a different thing. Now, the key takeaway in here that I want to, explain really, really thorough in the beginning, that machine learning or AI in general is not a jack of all trades, basically. So it's not a universal solution that can get you access, and it does not get everything in life solved. So there are a few, let's say, established things that AI can really work well with. So if you have a specific problem, an established problem, a narrow problem that you can work with, machine learning is probably going to do the job. However, it's not a jack of all trades. So a lot of people have this notion that, hey, when we're talking about artificial intelligence, it means that we can solve everything in life. We can have exactly a human counterpart that can do the same sort of activities just like a human being. However, in reality, this is completely different. Artificial intelligence still suffers when we're talking about matching a human level intelligence. Let's go back to the subject in here. So within machine learning, you have three segments or three different fields. The first one is supervised learning. And the reason we call it supervised learning is because as you give data to the machine learning algorithm, or as we like to call it, neural network, just like with the human brain, just like with the khalaya al-asabiyya, basically. With the supervised learning, as you're feeding data to the neural network or the artificial intelligence algorithm itself, the machine learning pipeline, you're giving the data and you're supervising the machine. You're giving the program the notion that, hey, this is a cat, this is a dog. So you're basically supervising it, if you get the idea. So this is one segment. However, there are other fields within machine learning where you don't do that. So you just feed in the data and you're expecting the machine to come up with a way to figure out the commonalities, the constructs that these, the data shares, and the factors that these bits of data share. So we call that unsupervised learning because there's little to no supervision from the human being, supervising the whole thing. So again, just remember, supervised means you're giving more information to the application, to the machine learning pipeline about the data that you're feeding in. With unsupervised learning, you're not doing that. So the two things, those two segments share the same thing, which is by the end of the exercise, you're basically getting information. You have a question and you're trying to get an answer to. So when I say, is this a cat or this is a dog, the supervised learning pipeline is going to tell me this is a dog, this is a cat by the end of the exercise after I train the artificial intelligence neural network with the data that I have. With unsupervised, you're getting the commonalities and the factors with the data that you have. Reinforcement learning, on the other hand, is completely different. It's not about asking the right question or getting answers. This sort of artificial intelligence or machine learning scheme really works well when you have a dynamic experience, like a game or a simulation of some sort. Where you need to have a real-time involvement with the AI agent. So a good way, or let's say a good ecosystem for reinforcement learning is to have it in games, because in games you're basically needed to do a real-time sort of interaction with the game. Should I move right? Should I move left? Should I go there? All these questions can be answered with reinforcement learning. And by the way, as far as I can tell from my experience, this is probably the most difficult subdomain from deep learning, as far as we can tell. So let's dig through this for a second. So classification is a segment of supervised learning. Let's just talk about supervised learning because it is the easiest to talk about. In supervised learning, where we're teaching the machine as we feed in the data, we have two things that we can accomplish. The first one is called classification, which means the ultimate issue that you're trying to do here is to classify objects or photos or text, whatever it is that you have in your hand, you're trying to classify its nature. So a good use case for that is when you're trying to figure out the difference between cats or dogs. When you have cats and you have a lot of images for cats and you have a lot of images for dogs, it's simple of just feeding the data into that machine learning algorithm, and there you have it. By the end of the exercise, by just giving the data to the machine learning neural network, you have a system that can tell the difference between cats and dogs. If you ask me, I'll say to you guys that this is magical. Because think about it, there are a lot of issues in life where we don't know exactly how to fix or how to come up with a solution to. However, because we are completely, let's say, we have a lot of data on our problems, we can just feed the data and allow the machine to come up with the answer. So this is really beautiful. And in case you were wondering, how can I get data on specific things? I would really urge you to check out this website, which is kaggle.com. That website is really, really beautiful. It allows you to get access to a lot of data, no matter where it is, be it the COVID-19 situation, genetic data, X-ray photos, video games. So you have a lot of things that you can get your hands dirty on using the data sets that we have on Kaggle. So there you have it. The other aspect apart from classification is the idea of regression. So with regression, what we're doing, instead of classifying objects to either a cat or a dog, the idea is you want to have a figure, you want to have a prediction on a number. A good example of that is when you have multiple houses and you're trying to figure out the exact, let's say, estimated price that you would give a property. A good example here in Bahrain, when you go to a bank, normally a bank is going to work with what we call muthamman, or somebody who knows their way around houses basically and their prices, because they have a lot of expertise when it comes to that domain. So what happens is the bank here really capitalizes a lot on the experience of this guy, the muthamman, basically, to check out the real property that you have, the house, the real estate property. Is it worth it to spend, for example, 150,000 BD on that house, or that house is really old, it's not up to standard. So all of these things, the estimation itself comes from the experience of that guy, the muthamman. Now what happens is here, we at INFINITEWARE, what we've done in the past, we actually did a project which was not really that difficult to begin with, is that we worked with a client of ours in the UK, and we managed to get access to their data, and they actually work in real estate. So when we took all of this data that these guys have, we had access to the number of rooms in each real estate, the location, the number, the area itself, every single thing that has to do with the house itself. So all of these input bits, we call them features. So you're gonna really hear this word being thrown a lot in the machine learning space if you are interested in getting on board in that and there. So the idea behind, so the term features means the input basically of each row that you're trying to feed, of each bit that you're trying to feed to the machine learning algorithm. So in my case, because we're working with houses, each house is going to resemble a different record, a distinguished record on its own. So in each record, we have a column for the area, a column for the number of rooms, number of toilets, all of these matters. And at the very end, we're going to have another column in our data that we call the label, or the target thing that we're trying to accomplish or that we're trying to find in here. So the label is the target, which is the thing that we're trying to figure out. In our case, because we're dealing with houses, our target, or our label, if you want to be very specific, is the price of the house that we have in our hand. So think about it in this way. You're going to have an Excel sheet. They're going to have multiple houses, and it's a huge number of houses. And in each house, each record, you're going to have the exact number of, the exact price for that house. And after a while, by just feeding that data into our artificial intelligence system, there you go. The machine learning algorithm is going to be able to associate those differences. It's going to know that, hey, if I have more toilets, I'm going to increase the number by this bit or so. So it's just beautiful in that sense that artificial intelligence is not only about giving you the distinction between cats or dogs or different kinds of data. It can even predict a number for certain cases. And that really worked out well for us in trying to predict the housing prices for different real estates. Yeah? So there you have it. So just remember, when we're talking about supervised learning, which is the most common case in machine learning, because it's very easy to deal with, you have two segments, either classification or regression. Classification is very easy to be done. We try to identify objects like cats and dogs, or is this a car, this is not a car, is this like a microphone, or this is a speaker, use cases like that. And on the other pole, you have regression, where regression talks about predicting a specific number. So a good example, as we said, is figuring out the prices of real estate in real life. So let's talk about the applications of artificial intelligence. And so the best way to actually do that is to show you multiple use cases. So I'm just going to open the browser here, and I'm going to show you multiple use cases that I prepared for you guys, so you can see what you can have, in terms of use cases without spending a lot of time, getting your hands dirty with the code. So I'm sure you know about Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services. All of these cloud services, or even Google Cloud Platform, have access to a tremendous amount of use cases, and it's actually a very huge catalog of AI products and services that you can leverage on without actually getting your hands dirty with the code. So I'll show you a couple of examples in here. So Microsoft and Microsoft Azure, their cloud services, they have what we call cognitive services, which is a catalog for artificial intelligence services that are easy to deal with. So if we go there are things that have to do with language, speech, and vision. I'm just going to go with vision now, so I can show you the example. I'm going to click on vision, and then there they have the face catalog in here. So I'm just going to click on that for a second. And if you go there, you know that as a programmer, you have the ability to integrate with their functionalities using an API. So if you're not a programmer, just think about it in this way. An API is an established technical way where you can leverage somebody else's work. So imagine I'm a company, I do a lot of work on AI. In order for you to utilize my power, the work that I've done programmatically in your applications, you can just get my APIs, which is a technical term that allows you to use whatever that I've done in your code base or in your application. Enough of the technical talk, let's just go in here. So this is a very good example. So one of the stuff that Microsoft has is the ability to detect the characteristics of any face that you upload. So I have an image here where I'm gonna sound cool and have my image in here. So there you have it. This is me. I'm trying to get very old with the beard. So I'm just gonna take the URL of my photo, and I'm gonna put it in here, and I'm gonna say submit. And now what's gonna happen is that the artificial intelligence agent of Microsoft Azure managed to give me a lot of characteristics of my face. Let's check it out. So it's telling you guys that there's a 13% chance that I'm bald. Okay, so I still have a lot of time to go, which is cool. My wife is going to be happy. Also, when we're talking about the hair color, it deduced that 0.99, so 99% basically, that I have a color hair of black. And if you go down, you get even more cool things. So I'm smiling, 95%. I'm male. Good to know. The age is 38, so I'm doing a good job, with the beard. Trying to fake my age here. And facial hair, glasses also. If I have eye makeup, good. I'm doing really great. My wife is going to be very happy that I don't have makeup in here. And talking about my emotions, happiness, 95%, neutral, 0.05, which is 4%. So there you have it. A lot of characteristics on the stuff that we have in here. If I take another image, just for the sake of example, just to spice things up for a second, I have here an image of a lady that is not really happy. Maybe she has loan issues, financial issues, but nonetheless, let me just take that URL and try to feed it in here and check this out, just to figure out that there's a difference in the results. So it's currently loading, and there you have it. We can actually see that she has a confidence level of 100% that her color is brown, which is cool and right. Smile, no smile at all. She is a female, she's almost 26, and she has no glasses, and she has eye makeup, lip makeup. So just think about it. It's super great what you can do with easy access to what Microsoft has to offer without really getting your hands dirty with the code. Remember, and every single thing that you see in here can actually be utilized within your application with the simple act of just integrating with an API. So if you're coming from a business perspective, you might not know it, but however, if you have a programmer at your organization, they're going to be more than happy to integrate with this. Very easy to actually get your hands dirty in here. So one last thing before we move forward from Microsoft, I want to show you other functionalities. So Microsoft has a lot of stuff, and not only things that have to do with vision, they also have things that have to do with speech. So check this out. Let's hope that this works for us. So they have a speech-to-text sort of facility, and if I click on it, it is supposed to take whatever that I talk here into the mic and put it as text. So let's just try things out. I'm just going to say speak. Hello, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys have a good time. It is so cool to have this here at the university. Thank you again, and I'm sure I'm going to see you soon. How cool is that? Isn't that cool? So check this out. I get this transcribing service super fast using leverage. It's using artificial intelligence, and it's probably 99% accurate if I'm not mistaken. Even though even if you guys have issues with the accent, it can even work well. So there you have it. That sort of service, you can even use them in your applications. So it's fair to say that every single thing that you're finding in here is there thanks to the revolution of machine learning. So this was never the case before. I remember using YouTube to transcribe the text or the speech in each video that I was looking at a long time back. So it was not very clear, honestly, because the methods and the statistical, let's say, tools were not really up to standard. However, with deep learning, check it out. We have a huge amount of things that we can do now. One last thing before I go, because bear with me, this is so cool. It's it's just amazing to tinker with this. So let me just check out text analytics. So there's this idea of sentiment analysis, and the idea is if you have text, the AI engine and Microsoft Azure can tell you if you're saying something positive or something negative. So let's just check this out for a second. Let's say I had a great time and I love this. So hopefully you guys are having the same notion in here. Let's click on analyze. Give it a second. There you have it. So this sentiment is 100% positive, which is cool. Now imagine you can actually get this sort of functionality within your code. You can check what people are saying in terms of their chat. Are they saying positive things about your product? Are they saying lousy things about your product? So there's a lot to cover. Let's say that this was bad and I hate it. Hopefully you don't get this notion. So there you got it. Negative 100%. So this sort of functionality is really beautiful. It has a lot of potential and you can probably use it in so many use cases. Okay, back to the topic here. So we've seen a couple of demos here, which was really cool. And in COVID-19, there are also use cases that are really, really important that we want to just make sure that we really appreciate what AI is providing for us during these times. So one of the issues that a lot of companies go through is the idea that not all of them have access to solid VPN lines that allow them to work from home. So remote efficiency is a pretty big deal. And in order to overcome that, we came up at INFINITEWARE with an artificial intelligence remote assistant, basically a fancy word for a chatbot. However, in our case in INFINITEWARE, our chatbot is not on the internet. It is specific for companies to be used within their organizations. Just like if you have somebody here at Teams where you just can interact with them. And the beautiful thing is, it's not about just giving you answers, for your questions. That AI bot is actually connected to all the systems within an organization through APIs, again, where you can ask it questions, it can do actions on your behalf, all within the tip of your fingers on the chat screen, which is so beautiful. So getting actions from the chat screen is a beautiful sentiment, and it's been sparing a lot of people a lot of headache. So normally you get this issue, which is that most companies get their bandwidth limits exceeded because everyone is trying to work from their homes, and the pipeline of the VPN, or just the bandwidth is not cutting it for everyone. So it's not enough for everyone to work from home. And so with the chatbot, you're just merely talking in terms of text. You just have text, do that for me. And even if you have a broken English, you have issues with grammar, you're good to go. We leverage machine learning big time in order to figure out the sentiment and the intention of the user uh, in order to get the job done. And so, yeah, this was actually a commercial product of ours. It's called Kavria. When we started the whole thing, the draft name of the product was Abby. However, now it's called Kavria. It's on our website. You can check it out at infiniteware.com. And we're super happy that a lot of people are actually leveraging this product in their banks and such. So the funny thing is we got a surge in demand during COVID-19 to get that thing on board, especially in Saudi. One more thing is handling uncertainty. So in case you did not know, just to how AI is powerful in our, current day and night, that is, when you search something on Google, you're actually getting let's say, a tweaked result set, meaning you're getting an answer that is very relevant to your likings, to the things that you want to do, to your behavior, to the things that you ask about through Google. So Google is really smart. They leverage your past behavior, your past search results, and somehow it gets you results that are in a way relevant to the things that you've been searching for. So the twist here is, no matter what you search for, your results are going to be very different from everybody else because it tweaks for you. It's very personalized to yourself. And that is even true for personal assistants. So you have Alexa, you have Siri, all of these things, they heavily rely on the personalization in order to cater to the user at hand. So this has been there for a very long time, but it got better in the last 10 years. Now, the reason I'm bringing that because I want to show you how businesses are leveraging those facilities in their day-to-day life. A good example is Spotify. If you listen to music online through Spotify or even watch things on Netflix, these platforms heavily rely on machine learning in order to, make the experience better for you guys. So everything that they put on the screen for you is just, they're just basically trying to cater exactly to what you like. This is why if you go to Netflix, you're gonna see that, hey, this movie is gonna be attractive to you, or you're gonna like it, and this is the confidence level, 98% or 97, and they do that because they have a lot of work, done in their technology to just leverage machine learning to do this day to day. Now, in case you did not know, which is a cool trivia, Netflix is a heavy spender for artificial intelligence and machine learning specifically. So there you have it. A company that has to do with movies and shows, invest a lot of money in AI for what? Because there's a lot of money coming back to them because of the technology. So the idea that I want to shed light, I just want to summarize here, it might be the time for businesses during these times to create products and services that are very specific and personalized for the users and their customers. I always say this example, and it might be worth it to say it again. You might have a bank account, and because a lot of banks in here don't leverage the power of AI, it's very easy for you to get an SMS asking you to get into a business that you're not interested in. So I remember a lot of people, and I actually got that a long time back when I was 15, messages on that, hey, it might be the time now that you go for a mortgage or buy a house, and which is funny because you're not even eligible to have a bank account at that time. But how come you're getting those messages? And the answer is because they're sending those in a bulk fashion. They're not personalizing the experience for each user. They're just doing it because it's easier for them. And so with machine learning, you can exactly get the same person like Amazon. It's very easy to track somebody else's behavior if you have their data, of course, with their consent. Imagine you have a website, which is a shop, an e-commerce website, and then you just check it out, and then you can provide them with things that are relevant to their likings and their basically preference. And we see big websites doing those things. So Amazon, eBay, this happens a lot. However, in the companies here in Bahrain or probably the Middle East, it's far-fetched from what I can see. But however, technology-wise, it's easy to do that. So might as well just figure out about that. AI is also being used in finance. A good example is fraud detection in real time. So every time you have your credit card or your debit card being swiped at, let's say, a restaurant or a coffee shop of some sort. You wouldn't know it, but in real life, in real time, your bank is gonna take your transaction and is gonna try to figure out if this is a fraudulent transaction or if this is a legit transaction. And they do that because they have a lot of data that's basically historical data, and they have machine learning tools and applications that leverage the data that they had before, especially if we're talking about banks. Banks have a lot of data on so many customers. I remember, working in banks in the past. There are cases where you have banks getting data on their customers that date back to the 60s. So imagine that. If you open an account around the 50s or the 60s, they will have data on you from that time. And so it's very easy for them to create a personalized experience. But we're talking here about fraudulent transactions. So when historical data comes into action here, into practice, a machine learning algorithm can really tell the difference in how to do that. And we know that a lot of major banks in Bahrain actually did this. I also know a company, which is Paytabs, in case you did not know. They've actually done that in-house. So they did not just in-source a solution from the outside to do this. They actually created a machine learning model. So they created the neural network. They did feed it with the data. They tweak things. And because they have a lot of data on fraud and fraudulent transactions, they managed to feed in the data and actually get a model that can do the job. And they used it in real time, which is really, really a powerful notion. One thing that I want to talk about that I forgot, actually. So we keep talking about data, but honestly, getting data is a very difficult deal. Can you guys just lock your mics for a second? So yeah, coming back to the subject, getting data is a very difficult deal. We might make it sound easier here, but actually getting data that is, relevant to the domain that you're trying to, figure out a solution for might be a difficult deal. And this is why that we have a lot of AI businesses just strictly focus on getting you data, not even the machine learning aspect, just getting you data so you can start working. A good example also for how banks leverage artificial intelligence or in business, the idea of credit scoring. So if in case you did not know about this, the idea of you being eligible for, let's say, a loan or getting a mortgage, a lot of people now, especially in banks, they leverage your data that they have on you, your history, in order to predict if you're going to go bankrupt down the line or if you're not going to be eligible for a loan. So whether it's ethical or not ethical, it's up to you to decide. However, it's a technology that is being used currently, in the nowadays. Also in manufacturing, don't get me started with robots. In my journey in the UK, Birmingham, I've seen places where you have a fully autonomous factory space, which might seem easy for a lot of people, but honestly, it's a very difficult thing because a factory space is an agile, let's say it's a very dynamic, fragile place. It's very easy to have something to break in the pipeline while trying to do production, and you have to juggle it and you have to be very dynamic in order to fix things as you go so you don't delay the production line. So again, I'm just trying to say it's a difficult issue and AI is doing a great job. In case you're interested, check out the idea of Industry 4.0. It has a lot of details on how this is implemented in the tech behind this. So yeah, all in all, what I'm trying to say here, it's better for us to, offload more and more stuff to the, to the machine, so we can, have more intellectual bandwidth to focus on what matters most. So if you ever, if what I'm trying to say here, even though there are a lot of perks for using AI or machine learning as of today, there are a lot of stuff that AI can do. One thing is, emotions, communication might not be, let's say the cup of tea of artificial intelligence as of today. However, we're advancing and we're progressing. And so maybe it is the time that we allow humans to do what they do best, which is communication. This is subjective. But yeah, allowing them to do things that they do better than machines and allow the mundane, repetitive work to be done by the robots themselves. Another example is using image recognition. We can even extract the text from photos. And I know a lot of businesses here in Bahrain, especially Tamkeen, leverage that sort of technology. So when you upload, let's say, a document that has your details, be it you have a different handwriting or you have not so much in terms of clarity for a photo, the OCR engine, which leverages now machine learning, unlike before, can get you a far more accurate results, which is amazing if you ask me. Now, another way to do AI, if you're not interested in getting your hands dirty with a cloud or even getting code done, you can also leverage the power of RPAs. So RPAs stands for robotic process automation, which is a fancy word to say that you have a program where you can just use drag and drop to switch things back and forth in order to automate things. And a lot of businesses, especially banks, financial institutions, corporates in general, they leverage RPAs because it's easier for them to do a lot of AI behavior without getting into the hassle of, booking the cloud, getting their hands on the cloud or writing Python code, whatever it is. It's very easy for them. And if you're interested, there's an application called Uipath that allows you to do that sort of thing with just drag and drop and you get things done. So for example, you can say, if I receive an email from my doctor, I can just, say, reply with things are going good and keep her happy without really doing the job. So all of these things can be done now using artificial intelligence, using RPAs, with the tip of your fingers. A good example, if you had any, let's say, doubts, really trusting what AI is capable of, we have this gentleman, Andrew Ng, which is a very popular figure in artificial intelligence. So this gentleman, a long time back, around 2017, managed to create a machine learning model that allows people to just upload an X-ray image, and they can tell if somebody has pneumonia in their lungs. And this has turned to be a great revolution, because a lot of people study for radiology. It's not an easy thing to master. However, when you have an application that does that, I mean, why wouldn't you say no to that, right? And that project actually scored better results, as you can probably see, than radiologists. So check this out. The project is open source. You can check it out. There's a lot of information on the actual machine learning pipeline and the data itself. So that is just beautiful. And not only that, even with the COVID-19, we have a lot of things that have to do with security and safety. So a good thing that you probably heard about is the idea of social distancing. But in case you did not know, now we have companies like Amazon who have projects, open source projects, on how to do social distancing using CCTV cameras. So it can help people who are monitoring to tell that, hey, these two guys are very close to each other. You might want to notify them automatically or even manually, and it's all done using AI. So that is powerful and it's really beautiful. Just check it out. It's online. It is called Social Distancing by Amazon. They have a page and it has a lot of technical details if you are also interested in knowing how things work. Yeah, so we also have legal document scanning. So banks do that because when you're working with basically papers for legal matters, you have a huge stack of paper. So it becomes cumbersome for people to know exactly what they're doing. However, when you have an AI agent that is really smart, it can go over those papers one by one, and even if they're scanned, by the way, and it can tell you that, hey, this is a shady clause that you might want to focus on, So it's really beautiful the way the interaction between AI and people that is happening here. Even with customer service. So I've actually used a service which was really beautiful back at the time, where as you speak, the AI is going to tell if your, let's say, user is feeling anger or if they're being frustrated. All of these things really help us down the line to enhance the process and the service. In case you did not know, we had a telco company in Saudi where we've done something similar. So we've actually leveraged the CCTV cameras on top of the gate when they come in or the door, and we take image on the way in and on the way out after the encounter with the customer service desk. And so if we reconcile and we see that people are not happy with how things are turning up with the customer service desk, we have a kiosk where, using machine learning, really, really quickly tell people that, hey, you have a small gift, take it with you so we can retain it for further months with the service. So beautiful use case that can be done with that. We have also customer segmentation, which allows you to segregate your customer base into heavy spenders, lousy spenders, people in the middle, and all of this is actually being done with machine learning. Little to no code leverage within this. So yeah, there you have it. Let me show you how you can adopt the whole thing and the rest with the whole thing also. Let's talk about adoption first. So the whole idea behind machine learning, if there's one thing that I want to talk about here, is that it is best when it comes to killing repetitiveness, or basically repetitive work, repetitive tasks. So the best way to do it is to just figure out if you have a repetitive task and just get a machine learning, or let's say an AI product to do just the job. Um, so starting is very easy. As I said, it's not a silver bullet. It wouldn't work with every single thing. AI, the scope of doing things in AI is very limiting. You have to be very specific about the problem that you have in order to use the right tool. It's not going to work for everything. Remember that. So starting is very easy. RPA is the best choice if you're just starting with the whole thing. You don't want to get your hands dirty with the code. You don't know how to use the cloud. You've got services like Uipath and some other more where you can do that to just leverage the power of AI with the tip of your fingers with minimal work. Yes? So businesses normally go for that because it's so much easier for them to get their hands dirty with the tech without really bothering with code and such. And the second thing is, remember what I said about the tech. It's not about the technology itself. The first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have exactly the right issue that you're trying to fix. So ask yourself, what am I trying to fix here? What is the issue that I have in my hand here that I'm trying to fix, that I'm trying so hard to fix? And then when you begin to understand and just frame the issue, you might figure out that AI might not be the best choice. And there are moments like that. So when we go for clients, we figure out because they're going so crazy about the hype behind AI that they want to just use AI however possible within their line of work. But their problems can be solved with traditional systems, with other tools, and they don't need machine learning. They don't need the investment in machine learning. So here's my tip for you guys: never get so picky about the tech. Think about the issue that you have in your hand first, and then jump in and choose the technology that allows you to do this. So the same thing goes also with blockchain and the trendy topics you hear about online. But however, machine learning is no different. Pick up the issue and figure out the right tool for it. And also, I want to tell you that almost everything is available for you guys online. So if you're a programmer, you don't need to create code, on your own. You don't need to do things in-house unless you're just trying to practice. You're trying to learn. But if we're talking about business, it's all about the speed and the getting faster to market. And so the best way to do this is to leverage what's available there in order to do that. So let me show you. So the open source community has always been generous, especially with business. All right. So there's a lot of tools, a lot of applications that do a great job basically, but can also be used within this sort of domain. So let me show you here. If we're talking about artificial intelligence, you've got a variety of tools. So we have NumPy, which is a Python library that works with your Python code that leverages the hardware. So if you have a graphics card, or let's say if you have a CPU, if you have a CPU that has parallel, so if you have a technology that is so high, that is very advanced, NumPy is going to just use it transparently for you without you really instructing it. So this is one. We have also Tensorflow, which is a machine learning framework by Google that used to be an in-house solution, but now they released it to the public. You can check it out. It's open source. It's available on GitHub. We also have Pytorch, which is a project by Facebook also, which is free and open source. But if you're trying to get your hands dirty with the code in the easiest way possible, I will always nominate Keras, which is, again, part of TensorFlow. So TensorFlow, which is a Google product, figured out that the best way to integrate, and allow people to get in an easy fashion in machine learning without getting a lot of hiccups is to get that product and get it basically a project in their TensorFlow code. Now, TensorFlow is a version 2.0, and Keras is part of it out of the box, meaning you don't have to download Keras by itself. The second you download TensorFlow by Google, there you have it. You have an easier way to work with machine learning. And it's just as easy for writing probably code that is just 8 lines worth of code, 8 lines or 9 lines to predict something. So easy to work with and so cool. You've got Caffe, OpenCV, which is heavily used in autonomous cars. And OpenCV stands for Open Computer Vision, meaning if you are trying to figure out what is happening there in the frame after you take a photo, is that a cat, is that a dog, is that a car, is that car coming up to me, or is it going away? All of these specific nuances can be done using OpenCV, which is an open source project. So cool and it's so easy to deal with. I will always nominate OpenCV to do a lot of things. Okay, so this is great. And also, just to reiterate on the cloud thing, I know that you guys are focused on Amazon Web Services. However, there's a lot of look, there's a huge variety in choices in terms of choices. You have Microsoft Azure, as you've probably seen, with different levels of maturity in order to be part of the AI wagon. We also have GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform, very easy to work with, honestly. Amazon Web Services also. Amazon has its own thing, which is called SageMaker, which is an AI facility, machine learning specifically, which you can get your hands on if you're getting this sort of thing. I wanted to bring one different thing in here, which is not really, or maybe it is attached to artificial intelligence, but it might be worth it to bring it up. So there's this notion now in Bahrain. There's this thing that everyone's talking about, open banking. So open banking is the idea of allowing banks to finally get their data out in an established and a secure way for people like me, individuals, and people like you, developers, to now create products that leverage the power of the data within banks. So remember, banks have a lot of data on people. So they have a gold mine of data on the way you do things, your behavior, where you swipe your cards, the coffee shops that you go to, yeah, your behavior, how much you spend for food, and every single thing out of those. And so with open banking now, this is all now accessible to us as programmers, as developers. We can create products, really cool things. So check this out. This is open banking, the Open Bank project. And maybe you heard about Tarabut Gateway here in Bahrain, which is the company that is currently working with the central bank in order to bring this up here in Bahrain. And they're leveraging what we call Token IO, which is a vendor, basically. But the idea is, if you are a programmer or a company trying to make use out of the data of your customer, you know, your customer's data, the thing that they have in their bank, it is just as easy as downloading the SDK, which is the software development kit, which is a tool set that allows your programmer to write code and connect it to the open banking infrastructure here in Bahrain. And there you have it. Every time you want to get information from their, let's say, bank account, it's just as easy, you know, of getting the information. The user is just going to get a pop-up where they can say, okay, get that access and give it to INFINITEWARE or Ameen, where they can leverage that and create a good product. So check open banking. I have other open banking talks. If you're interested, I gave a talk on open banking for Google. And in the last 3 weeks, I believe you can find it on YouTube. It's in Arabic, so I'm gonna chart and you're gonna find it. It's very easy to understand. So there you have it with open banking. I just want to summarize that. The business aspects in here. Always invest in good data in people who can handle it. So mark that really, really well if you are getting into business. Also, know exactly what you want to get. It's not just a matter of just using AI and that's it. You want to make sure you have a problem that is worthy of solving in AI. 3, utilize the existing tools. Never reinvent the wheel unless you're just trying to learn. And 4th, last but not least, start with a small proof of concept, just like what I showed you guys with Microsoft Azure, just to get things, going without really investing a lot. Let's talk about the risks about AI. Now, I gave you, and I showed you that AI is really beautiful. The grass is really green. However, there are issues also talking about data, about AI, machine learning. As you probably can tell, it is very data hungry, which means if you don't have enough data, you're not going to go anywhere. And that is completely true for deep learning. This is why one of the biggest issues with machine learning is getting access to data so we can feed it to the AI pipeline. So this is one. This is why you have a lot of companies just being focused on getting the data for people to do work within machine learning. How difficult getting the data is, right? And the second thing is, say, black box. If you remember in the beginning, I told you that the machine learning algorithm is going to create code. Well, that is not entirely true. What happens is the machine learning algorithm is going to create for you a very complicated mathematical formula that can get you to the answers that you want. So when you say, is that a cat or a dog? The formula is going to take all the pixel colors, every single thing about the picture, and it's going to output that, hey, this is a cat or this is a dog. So it's a black box, which makes it very difficult to use in real scenarios where you need to have transparency and exposure to how things work on the inside. So imagine using machine learning in somebody's website where they can hire people, for the job. You're not going to trust a black box like a machine learning algorithm if you can't really exactly know how it chooses the right candidate for the job. So things to watch out for if you're using machine learning. Everything that has to do with ethics might be difficult for machine learning as we speak. And also, it is very slow to train. So trying to train an AI algorithm is not easy, even though it might seem easy in terms of the workload, but it takes a lot of time. It needs a lot of computational power. This is why a lot of people, when they try to feed in the data to train the machine learning algorithm or the artificial neural network, they do it not on their devices, their computers, they actually do it on the cloud, because the cloud offers a lot of power and it makes it easy for a lot of people. Yes? And last but not least, even AI can be taken advantage of in order to do hacks, and in order to, use the technology to do different things. So I had a talk for the defense conference happened by the Ministry of Interior in 2019. You can check it out on Google. Just write defense, Ameen Altajer. You're going to find my slides there where I tell people how they can even leverage the power of data and machine learning in order to take advantage of how AI recognizes things. So you can just add small, amount of pixels here and there, and you can completely change how the AI, would detect if you have a dog or a cat. This really helps if you are trying to overcome systems or authorization or authentication schemes. So yeah, check this out. And I just wanted to show you that, guys, even AI can be hacked. And this brings us to the last portion here, that even though we're talking about data a lot, but there is this, elephant in the room, which is the topic of the manners and the ethics of data. So how can we exactly get data to do all the beautiful things about AI, but without, jeopardizing the privacy matters for our users and our clients? So this is an ongoing subject. You have regulation things happening in Europe, like with the GDPR framework, if you heard about it. In Bahrain, we have Bahrain Data Protection Law, which is established to make sure that your data is now being treated with the best way possible in terms of security and privacy. So yeah, it's an ongoing conversation, but I just want you to be very clear on this topic, because we have so many companies that are taking advantage of people's data, notably Facebook and other businesses. So there you have it. It's an ongoing conversation. If you're starting, if you're starting up with a project that has to do with data, you want to make sure that you are playing really, really nice. You don't want to get your hands dirty and have a lot of issues with the law later on. I just want to conclude with this notion: in the race of business, data can either make or break your business. Spot on. So we've seen a lot of business that just went away because they did not have enough time, or they did not really have the focus and the attention to focus on the data and how they can leverage it. Because nowadays, every business is almost a data-oriented business. So there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed the session. I tried to cover as much as possible within this short time. I do apologize if I walked a bit faster than usual in this, because we have an hour and I want to show you so many great things in here, especially the demos. If I had a chance, I'll show you even more stuff. However, you can always reach out to me at ameenaltajer.com or at my handle, which is at Ameen Altajer. I'm also available on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. I write about AI. You can also check out my blog, which is ameen.ai, a fancy domain name. You can check out our products and services, which is in INFINITEWARE.com. So many cool stuff. But yeah, other than that, thank you very much. And thank you for having me, Dr. Asar.
Thank you so much, Amin, for this
Pleasure.
insightful session. And I'm sure that students have, some of them are relating to you in terms of their ideas that they have. And I'm sure that they will have something to go about, and let's say maybe embed this in their projects now as well.
Yes.
We have Abdurrahman, he's raising his hand. Abdurrahman, go ahead, please. عبد الرحمن محمد، عندك سؤال تبي تكلم أمين؟ Okay, he wrote his question in the chat. Hi, Mr. Amin, I have 3 questions to ask. You can unmute yourself, Abdurrahman. Talk to Amin. As a business owner, what were some of the challenges you faced in the initial stage of starting your company in terms of hiring talent and attracting customers? Let's take one question at a time.
Okay, so this is the million-dollar question, honestly. There's a lot of talk in here, and everyone has their own ways of doing things. What we've done in the past, we started super early, which is really important. I really urge you guys to start as soon as possible. You might not really do a huge business in the beginning. Start really small. Create a specific product that you have passion in. start up with a website, try to get a CR as of today, especially with the COVID-19. Everyone is going crazy, trying to do businesses fast because, you know, you get a lot of support from Temkin and such. So start early, try to use tools as much as possible. Don't create everything from scratch, even if you enjoy it. But your, speed to market is a very crucial thing. And also, don't do every single thing. So in Bahrain, I know we have a lot of companies that are doing a lot of stuff. سوق الحراج basically. Say they do programming, they do websites, they do mechanical work, they fix computers. Focus on one thing that people can associate you with, right? And in terms of recruitment, maybe at this stage where you work in university, you might not have the chance to actually hire people. However, there are a lot of people who are interested in working in your project. If it is so exciting for people, where you can either give them a royalty when you sell something, so you tell them sort of, okay, I'm going to get you cash down the line if we sell, and people are okay with that. And some people would like to have shares. So if you establish a business, you can give them shares with their commitment. So if you stick up with me for, let's say, if you stick with me for 5 years, after those 5 years, you earn your full basically share set. So this is one way. There's a lot of ways to do this, but check out my website. I have talks. I do put a lot of text.
Yeah, and again, Abdurrahman is asking about, let's say, students who come from a bit of like engineering, mechanical engineering, and how can they cope with the, let's say, the changes that are happening around us, and we can see that most of the businesses, or maybe let's say the things that are coming out, mainly are related to the use of technologies in, let's say, in terms of, like you mentioned, AI, machine learning, and so on. So I think what Abdurrahman is worried about is that the skills that he has as an engineer and how it feeds into the skills required nowadays.
Yes. Honestly speaking, there's one thing that you guys have to really acknowledge from the get-go. I know you're currently in your journey of university. It's a wonderful journey. However, there are a lot of things that you have to watch out for. This journey, the purpose of this journey is not just the material that you're studying. Okay, it's a big part of it, yes, but connecting with people. So you have to really raise your hat for what Dr. Isra is doing here. It's a very tremendous effort to connect people with the industry, so you can get connections, you get to hear their experiences. So what I'm trying to say here, maximize your experience in university. Don't just focus on the material itself. Try to get yourself involved with events, with projects as much as possible. Get your hands dirty, stay late if you want, because this is the point in your life where you can experiment. But the further you go in life, you have more commitments, like getting more baggage, as you go, and it becomes difficult for you to get better choices. Don't get me started with the idea of getting married, getting kids. Dr. Asai's face is telling it there. But yeah, there's a lot of challenges. Just experiment as much as possible. And this takes me to your answer. I'm sorry if I somehow diverse the answer, but even though you're part of mechanical engineering, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't really that be super bad to pick up software skills maybe, so you can operate remotely and just be dynamic. In this life, everything is dynamic. There's not one thing that is set in stone. It's very easy for us to just change our business model directly. And this is actually a story that came true. So for us, we were actually a game development company back in 2008 when we started back in university. Believe it or not, I got customers here and there, but down the line, I had to pivot to a complete AI business, which was around 2013, give or take. So it's very likely that I have to pivot down the line if businesses change, but it's just that.
Yeah, and maybe I would also like to add here as well that Abdurrahman, it doesn't matter. Let's say when you are looking for a job, okay, people are going to look at your major, but also they want to look at the skills that you have. So what I can sense from your question is that you are a self-taught programmer, and you are worried that, for example, if you apply for a job, people are going to tell you that we want somebody with a degree, okay, which CS degree, for example, computer science, and so on. But to me, honestly, the skills that you as engineers have also count in terms of critical thinking, in terms of problem solving, in terms of logical, let's say, finding a logical solution to so many things. These are also important, and they can also feed into when you are learning to do programming as well. So whatever skills that you guys have as mechanics, as business students, you can always learn something and at the same time benefit from the other skills that you have. The last question for Abdurrahman, he's asking about Elon Musk's OpenAI company, and if
Yes.
this had any effect at on your work.
OpenAI used to be a non-profit organization. However, they're changing their business model now. They're becoming profit. In fact, all of the work that they're doing is being wrapped into an API package that you can leverage as a business. Notably, they have a service called GPT, which allows you to actually create dynamic text. You can generate text. So imagine you want to write a story, but you're not creative enough, or you're trying to lie for, you're trying to lie against your doctor. That, hey, I wrote this for you. You can basically just write a paragraph, and then you just feed it to the GPT API, and it's going to continue for pages, which is really amazing. So because the model was done long time back by OpenAI, it gets you this access. But coming back to the subject here, OpenAI has a lot of work. They have amazing documentation. And this takes me again to the topic. I want just to add one thing. Expect that you're going to learn very different things in life. So just be very agile, dynamic, really. Even your skill sets and the things that you like. It's very wrong to think that whatever I study now in university is going to be the final thing that I'm going to have a job in. I know some people who studied math and they turned out to be great businessmen and, for example, sports and stuff, or great computer science people who are now musicians. So yeah, just that.
And I think Saifuddin shares the same worry as well. What are some, he's asking, what are some software skills that might be important and relevant in getting a job? And how about starting a business?
Yeah, so programming is very important no matter where you come from. So if you're a technical person, you would know this already. But if you're a business person, there is no harm in learning at least Python, because Python is very easy to learn. It's probably a 4-hour job if you have completely zero clue, in this space. And if you are somebody who is already with experience, you might take 1 hour to 2 max. And it is a very English-like language. So it's not difficult. It's very easy to pick up. There's a lot of documentation, a huge amount of videos online, especially on YouTube. Even here in Bahrain, we do workshops. So we have Google developer groups in Manama, GDG Manama. We give talks on Python and C, C++. So you can get your hands dirty easily. So yeah, programming languages are first, and always be on the look for events. So the whole good thing and bad thing also about IT in general and technology, it is that it is super dynamic. So if you're not keeping up, you're going to be left in the dark. You're going to be obsolete. So always just be on the look. There might be a chance that Python is not going to be suitable anymore. You have a different language. You have to be there. So, but if I had to summarize, programming is very, very crucial, even if you're into business. Just know how things work.
And in terms of, again, I think Saifuddin is asking, how about starting a business in terms of the skills required for that?
Yeah, so when you're getting into business, normally people get allocated into two different pools. You're either the business guy who's really talkative, who knows their way around language, who knows how to stand on top of stage, being very confident, can look people in the eye and really convince them of what they have to sell. And you have the other kind where you have a technical person who knows their way around the technology and the nitty-gritty details about the tech. However, we have people who can master both. In some cases where they can really be on stage and talk about their product, and at the same time they're very illiterate when it comes to the technology aspect, and they're actually maybe building the code themselves. So maybe in the beginning, if you're not sure, just think about it for some time. Am I the technical guy? Should I partner up with a business guy? And if you are the business guy, should I find the technical guy who is suitable for the job? And not only that, I want you, now a good example is group projects in the university. You get to learn a lot about how people behave and what they're good at and they're bad at. So communication is also a great deal. Even if you're good at what you're doing, if you can't communicate, good luck finding good people. Yeah? So yes, so think about it, and I'm just going to leave you with this last notion here. Finding partners in business is like getting married. I never get old talking about this example, but it's like finding the right partner. Are they up for the job? Do they share the same values as yours? Are they professional enough? Are they going to give you the courtesy of leaving you professionally if they don't want you? So all of these things, they do matter when you're doing business. So this is why maybe you can hear that never do business with your, family, because it can leave you with bad blood, basically. Yeah.
Sometimes as well. Yeah. All right, guys. Do you have any more questions for Amin? كفيت ووفيت يا أبو بدر. يعطيك ألف عافية. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, doctor, for having us. I had a great
Thank
time,
you.
and I'm always reachable for you specifically, doctor, and for everyone else. Just
Thank
check
you.
out my website. I'm always available. Thank you very much for having me, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you, Amin.
Bye bye. Take care.